One man is being victimized by our own government. One man whom they fear, yet whom millions love. One man who is willing to take the poison arrows of lawfare. One man whose voice has been taken away by a corrupt judge operating in a corrupt system. One man who has been ridiculed and insulted. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who refused to back down. One man who stands between us and them. One man that wants to see America protected again. One man who wants to see America prosper again. One man who understands that a man is a man and a woman is a woman. One man who understands and protects the blessing of life. One man who wants to restore American exceptionalism. One man who once again wants to make America that shining city on a hill for all to see. A place where all the people of the world glowingly set their eyes upon. America. One man who unashamedly wants to make America great again. That one man is Donald Trump.
This is Fanfare with Barry Cunningham.
Fighting residents off the streets as their own children scream in terror. That is happening on the streets of our great country. So people are basically disgusted. They're disgusted with this trampling of their basic human rights, rights that we've always cherished and fought for in this country. And that is precisely why New York has a strong interest in what is occurring almost across the country in Texas. Now I have news flash for Republicans in Texas. This is no longer the Wild West. We're not going to tolerate our democracy being stolen in a modern-day stagecoach hoist by a bunch of law-breaking cowboys. Americans don't want a system that's stacked against them. They believe in fairness. It's fundamental. And I'll tell you this, they're done with the chaos. They're done with the cruelty. And I would say they're ready to vote Republicans out of power in Washington, certainly in the upcoming 2026 elections. Republicans know this. They've seen the polls. They know they're sliding downhill because Americans are rejecting their policies. So this is why they're fighting. They know they'll lose the elections, but to subvert the will of the people, they're hell-bent on rigging the system. Rigging the system is un-American. While Donald Trump and his co-conspirator, Greg Abbott, erode our democracy and drag us toward authoritarianism. Now, what Texas and Republican states are doing at the direction of Donald Trump, I say is nothing short of a legal insurrection against our capital. Legal meaning they're using the legal process. Does not mean it's legal, and it must be stopped. If Republicans are willing to rewrite these rules to give themselves an advantage, then they're leaving us no choice. We must do the same. There's a phrase, you have to fight fire with fire. That is a true statement of how we're feeling right now. And as I've said, another overused but applicable phrase, all's fair in love and war. That's why I'm exploring with our leaders every option to redraw our state congressional lines as soon as possible. Who don't care, will not invest their their heart and soul into this battle. This is a war. We are at war. We are at war. We are at war. We are at war. And that's why the gloves are off, and I say, bring it on.
All right. We have had now a prominent Democrat Republican come out and actually say what I've been telling you guys for close to 5 or 6 months. You are in a civil war. It has begun in earnest. They don't care. She said, I don't care. We don't care. They will do whatever they have to do at this point. The only question that remains is, will you? Will you stand and fight? Because it was funny, I put, a Guns N' Roses song up, which I can't play here, the song was called Civil War. And like I told you, now it's here. And there were some people in the comments going, I don't get it. I don't understand. You might want to. Luckily, we have a Patton-esque type person as president. We don't have some lip wrist like Obama. I feel very confident that if we get to a point where we got to do what we got to do, we have the right president in place. Many of us have told you for quite some time, we truly feel the military is the only way. A lot of people didn't understand what that meant. A lot of people turned away from it. A lot of people didn't want to hear. A lot of people thought it was all, conspiratorial and all that kind of stuff. A lot of people didn't want to take the proverbial red pill, didn't want to go that route, didn't want to understand that your country could get to this point. Now there's people out there on X trying to tell people, oh, the red pill, oh, it's a fantasy. I just heard the governor of New York just say, we're declaring war. This is war. I guess the one thing we can be very thankful about is that if their first warlike action is to retreat, that should tell you a lot about who your fight is against. I feel a little bit different if they were out there doing something, but they never will. See, this isn't about them. They're going to stay in the mansions. They're going to stay behind the gates. They're going to do whatever they need to do. And all they want to do is get everybody else out there to do their bidding. They did their action. We're going to retreat. We want no parts of what these people want. But they're going to tell other people what to do. And as she said, I don't care. Your mindset has to understand, what exactly does she mean? What she means is, without any equivocation, is they realize their party is done. I showed you a video last night with Chris Cuomo and Stephen A. Smith and Bill Maher. Quite strong liberals at one time are now like, hey man, we're not down with this communist Marxist crap. People calling into Chris Cuomo's show saying, I didn't like Trump, but stuff's looking good, making money, safe. He's getting these newcomers out of here. And yet, these people want to declare war against what President Trump is doing. When they say the American people, they must not remember the scoreboard on November 5th or 4th, whenever it was. Remember the scoreboard? And it said, he won with a landslide. But the American people, no, they don't want this. What American people? You see, this is what we voted for. And I don't know if all of you voted for this. I don't know if you guys realized back in November, hey, do you think we're going to be fighting a war of some sort in a couple months? Many people didn't know it. I told you. Some other people told you. These people are nuts. They're bat poop crazy. All they plan on doing is what they're doing right now. And here, let me give you a little bit more information. These people will burn this country to the ground and rule over the ashes and vermin that remain before they give up power. It's never going to happen. They're going to do everything in their power that they have available to just muck things up. Everything. They'll burn it all down. You better be ready for it. You better have cash in your house someplace. You better have cash buried outside. You better have full tanks of gas. You better have food. You better have water. Because they will indeed burn it all down, given the chance. Oh, and you're going to need some armament, depending on where you live. I feel pretty comfortable here. We're here in South Florida. I understand it's a different world here, but I'm already seeing the remnants of people who have fled from these other cities. Did you guys know that Glenn Beck is moving to South Florida? Glenn Beck is moving out of Texas, and he's coming to Florida, to the free state of Florida. People are getting ready. People know this isn't going to be good. This is just the beginning. This is them posturing their forces. She just said it. There's no equivocation. We're at war. But see, the problem is we've already been at war. Just that a lot of people weren't paying attention. In fact, you didn't need even the red pill. You could have just saw what they were doing. You took your language away. Didn't feel any compunction about that. Yeah, you can't say these words. What do you mean I can't say? No, you can no longer say those words. We will cancel you. We will take your kids from you. We will turn your kids into zombies. We will indoctrinate them, and if that doesn't work, we'll cut off their junk. And then you can have what's ever left over. Good luck with that. And you can't say a word. Don't even call us out. Don't even say the word. Hey, listen, we're going to go ahead and encourage as many people to remove babies. And we're going to accelerate it. We're going to fight like hell just to keep it going. We're going to sanctify George Floyd. We've already been at war. You just didn't realize it. And now, what you have to remember is, and I put that up as my thumbnail. Some of you guys are old enough to remember this. They drew first blood. See, the war began a while ago, and you didn't realize it. You were a spectator. You thought this was, hey, I voted, but they already drew first blood. Do you remember where that saying comes from? It was a movie by Sylvester Stallone called Rambo. And Rambo was just this Vietnam vet who, he wasn't all there, but he was just a nice guy, just walking from town to town, seeing America. And he gets, basically hassled by some people. They tried to make them look like, they were just bum, what. And he gets, you got to get out of town and all this other stuff. And finally they get into some sort of a, entanglement. And he's in a cave, and his former drill sergeant or whatever, commanding officer said, hey, Johnny, you got to come out of there. He goes, sir, can't do that. Can't do it. Why? They drew first blood. They drew first blood on July 13th. They drew first blood. Now it is what it's going to be. And some people aren't ready for it. But you have to realize that right now, the polls that Kathy Hochul were showing are fake. Even CNN is saying, oh, they're in big trouble. You ain't got nothing. Which means their backs are against the wall. They have, at this point, painted themselves into a corner. They don't know what to do. They're trapped. And what happens when you back an animal into the corner? They become extremely desperate and dangerous. You have to make sure at this point that you are prepared for what comes next. Now, a lot of people say it, oh yeah, I'm ready for this, I'm ready for that, but are you really ready? Because they're ready to go to the mattresses. They will do whatever it needs to do. They don't care about you. How do I know this? Because they never say it. If you're in a relationship with a woman or even a child and you never tell them, I love you, they begin thinking, well, does mom and dad, does my husband, does my wife love me? They don't say it enough. And I've challenged people, show me one video, one, of any Democrat politician who goes out there and says, you know what, I love America. I absolutely love this country, and I want the best for Americans. And here's what my proposals are for Americans. I challenge anybody to go find that. You aren't going to find that tape, that clip anywhere. They hate you. They hate everything you stand for. They hate everything about the way you live your life. That is pretty much the definition of an enemy. It's not a political difference. They hate you. They hate your religion. They hate your marriage. They hate that you raise kids. They hate that you educate kids. There's no coming back from this. And I know many of you, like myself, are Christians, and you're always thinking to yourself, there's got to be a way. We can show these people love. At some point, you're going to have to just wake up and realize these are vipers. I think you've seen a video of the clips from the new musical, well, the revised musical Jesus Christ Superstar, and they actually cast a demon, per se, as Jesus. They're mocking Jesus Christ in this play. And so at some point, there's no more cheeks to turn. If you care about your way of life, if you care about your family and your family's way of life, please, dear God, get ready. You just heard a Democrat politician say it. We're going to war. We are going to war. And I think a lot of people think the old type of war of, tanks, that ain't going to happen. They're just going to look to destroy America any way they possibly can. That's their religion. These people don't care about the stars and stripes. You've seen it. They've ripped them down. They've burned them. They'll burn you. So one of the ways you can get prepared for today's sponsor of the show is making sure you've got some hedge, some gold, some silver.
It's genius. It's pure genius. America is the country that started the AI race. And as President of the United States, I'm here today to declare that America is going to win it. We're going to work hard. We're going to win it.
Why do so many financial experts call silver the most undervalued asset today? Because silver is essential to the future, from solar tech and electric vehicles to the explosive growth of artificial intelligence. Demand is rising fast, and yet silver is still trading at a bargain. With billions pouring into AI, silver prices have only one place to go, and that's up. In fact, silver may be the most overlooked asset class in financial planning. The opportunity for silver is well documented. The market for silver could double or even triple by 2026. You see, I believe in hard assets like this bar of silver. You can hold it in your hand, you can put it in your IRA, you can put it in your home safe, and relative to gold, it's very affordable. That's why I urge you to call my friends at Lear Capital and get their free report, The AI Revolution, and see why silver prices could be set to soar. Call 800-601-5430 or go to learberry.com. But don't wait. We all know. We've seen it. The government can print lots and lots of dollars, but they can't print silver. With everything that's happening in the economy right now, it feels like we're all walking around on shaky ground. Prices are stuck at a really high level, and it seems like nothing is affordable anymore. It's no wonder many are relying on credit cards to cover the gaps. Credit card debt is skyrocketing, and it's leaving a lot of people stressed out. However, if you're a homeowner, you don't have to face this uncertainty alone. My friends at American Financing can help you take control. They can help you access the equity in your home to help you pay down that high-interest credit card debt, giving you peace of mind and real savings. On average, people just like you are saving $800 a month. Plus, they may be able to close your loan in as little as 10 days. Don't let the chaos of the economy and everything that's in the media right now get the best of you. Call American Financing today. It costs you nothing to get started, and you might be able to delay 2 mortgage payments, giving you a cushion in this uncertain time. Call 888-976-5555. That's 888-976-5555. Or you can visit AmericanFinancing.net/Barry. All right, so let's continue. There's a whole lot. Sometimes I look in these comments and it just crack me up. They just crack me up. Donald John Rambo. Exactly. Donald John Rambo. I like that one. I definitely like that one. That's what we should call him. If you guys haven't seen the movie Rambo, you might want to check it out. And, sometimes I see comments in here that kind of make me just shake my head. In talking about gold and silver, and some people say, who can afford it? If you can't afford it, we understand. It's not something that says, I'm not trying to denigrate anybody or put anybody in a certain place or whatever, but if you are in a position to hedge your bets, that's what I'm trying to say. That's all. I'm not trying to, dangle something in front of people who aren't able to afford something. It's the fact of life. I can't help you with that. But in any event, it's a very viable hedge strategy. And so for those of you who can, then it's worthwhile. I don't get it sometimes where people, again, look to shun other people for their capacity to do certain things. And when you're posting like that in the chat, and I'm being demure, I'm being quiet, I'm not being mean, you're saying more about you than the other people. Be comfortable. Let other people understand, hey, listen, I might want to be interested in buying some gold and silver, without trying to make other people feel like you're in a bad situation so they should understand. It's not fair. But then again, life's not fair. So just realize that. And Ashley and Robin both have told me, just don't even acknowledge, but sometimes I just think we have to acknowledge people and understand you're typing something into a box on a screen that's going to reach a lot of people. And they're probably going to look at you and say, well, if you don't like it, don't buy it. If you're not interested, look away. But you shouldn't try to demean others that want to improve their position in life. We get enough demeaning from the Democrats. Do we need it from MAGA? Seriously. Do we really need people who are Republicans, who are supporters of President Trump and supporters of MAGA, having an issue with people being able to buy gold, silver, or have a show and run commercials? No, we shouldn't have a problem with that. We should encourage it. You should encourage each other. Hey man, if you can afford some silver and gold, go get some. Hey Barry, if you can make money because people want to be sponsors of your show, you go for it. That's what I do every single day. I keep trying to tell you about Trump and his desire to bring prosperity to America. What kind of person would I be if I said to you, you know what, it sucks. Maybe you should just stay poor. Maybe we should all just, eat ramen for the next 5 or 6 days and just say to hell with it, toss it aside. It's never going to get any better. No, I don't want to be around those kind of people. There's enough Democrats for that. Not me. Not me at all. All right, so let's continue with the craziness and break down some of the strategy of the war that you are now in.
Well, in the 2021 quorum break, actually, I would argue that Texas Democrats were successful in forcing Republicans to walk away from some of the more extreme parts of the voter suppression law that were being contemplated at the time. They still moved forward with their efforts to try to suppress the possibility of a free and fair election in Texas.
Okay, so they use that word quite often. It's a dog whistle to the people who, listen to their crap. They're people who don't realize they're being lied to. There is nobody in the United States, any American, that's a key, any American who's had their vote suppressed. I have never, since the time I was 18, ever walked up to a polling place and had somebody go, hey, man, you're black. You shouldn't be voting here. Not only has it not happened to me, I don't know anybody it's happened to. You know why? Because it doesn't happen. But they keep saying it's voter suppression. They're using something, a tool that they've been using for 30 or 40 years. White man doesn't want you to vote. White man doesn't want you to vote. What is he talking about? And you, as an audience, need to talk to people and go, stop. If you need help finding a place to vote, here's a link. Go look. There's so many ways to vote. But yet they keep saying voter suppression. Here's another thing with that. I would love Mark Mitchell or somebody to do a poll. How many people who wanted to vote couldn't vote? What's that number of people who actually wanted to vote didn't vote? And then question number 2 would be, why didn't they vote? What was the suppression? Nobody came and got them because they couldn't go to the poll? They were hurt? What was the suppression? Let me know, because I would love to hear from a Democrat who just got on an airplane that they chartered for $17,000 to tell me that little May Williams over on Elm Street couldn't get to the polling station because she couldn't afford a bus pass. Please do tell us how it's being suppressed. Please tell me where these people are who are suppressed. I've never seen a video of anybody said, I couldn't get to the polling place because I was being suppressed. It doesn't exist. It's the boogeyman under the bed scenario. That's what they keep trying to push.
What they do, but the Texas Democrats were successful in reducing the extreme nature of what was being proposed. But this moment does require, an extraordinary response, because this is an extraordinary act that Republicans have been ordered to undertake to try to gerrymander the Texas congressional map as part of an effort to rig the midterm elections. Wolf, that's what this is all about, because Donald Trump, House Republicans, and the Texas Republican Party, they're all running scared because they have...
He didn't even realize what he just said there. And of course, Wolf Blitzer just nods. They're all running scared, he says. There's this word, Hakeem, I'm pretty sure you know it. You're kind of knowledgeable. There's a word called irony. And what you just did was a complete, almost Shakespearean level example of irony. The Republicans are running scared. Y'all just ran from your vote in Texas. The whole Democrat coalition decided, hey, we're getting out of here. We're going to, say it, Akeem, run. But Democrats are running scared. I'm pretty sure all the Republicans in Texas are sitting there waiting for the 3 o'clock hour so that Greg Abbott can drop the hammer. But you're saying that the Republicans are running scared. Bad choice of words, bro. But also interesting enough. You notice how this entire thing was completely inorganic. There was nothing spontaneous about this. They knew what they were going to do. They raised the money in order to do it. The jet was waiting. Somebody paid for it. And they all flew off to different places and got in hotel rooms. And the very next day, today is Monday, they've got a media blitz going on. Well, pretty much nobody worked on Sunday. Ashley can tell you in terms of booking people, it's very hard to book people on a Sunday. So you've sent people emails saying, hey, listen, I want to get on your network. CNN's switchboard was lit up. Hey, we need to get on Monday morning straight away. So it was completely coordinated. They're all over the news, which you're going to see a bunch of them. All of them. Kathy Hochul, press conferences, all kinds of things except doing their damn jobs. It's easy to make a speech on television instead of making it in the chambers of your government in Texas. And by the way, Hakeem and Kathy, neither of you are from Texas, so why don't you just shut the F up? Why don't you let, the people of Texas who voted these people in, who knew based on the campaigns that they were running, this is what they voted for. Now tell me who it is that's really, really suppressing people. Because the people of Texas, this is what they voted in. This is who they voted for. All the people that you're trying to basically denigrate are people that they already said, yeah, we want these people. And they gave you Jasmine Crockett. They gave you a couple other idiots in certain areas. But this is what the people of Texas wanted.
Failed the American people.
I think what the American people want is nonpartisan map drawing. The Constitution states that this should be one person, one vote. No group should be reduced or eliminated.
Interesting. The American people, which, by the way, this has nothing to do with. You see how they're trying to do it? They're trying to get everybody riled up in other cities. This isn't an American people issue. This is a Texas issue. They're making it a nationwide issue. They shouldn't be on CNN. They should be on, KPTV or whatever in Texas. Make your case to the people who actually vote for you. Nobody thought about that? The American people? No, it's not an American people issue. It's a Texan issue. Let them take care of it, and you're causing it to be a national issue, which gets us all involved. But we need to point this stuff out to people. It's not American. And by the way, again, the American people let you know on November 5th what they wanted. Look at the scoreboard, bro. You got your butts handed to you. And now you keep saying, well, the American people, they want all this.
Everyone should have fair maps. Oh, there's actually a bill in Congress to mandate just that. I'm a proud sponsor of, but it just can't move forward under the polarization that exists now.
So you say you're in favor, big picture, of nonpartisan map drawing. Does that mean how would you feel then about California taking action if Texas does to redraw its maps, or your home state of Illinois trying to redraw your maps if Texas takes action?
I love what he did just there. He didn't have to do that. John Berman just exposed this guy and said, what does it have to do? What do you have to have anything to say about Texas? You're not from here. You're not from there. You are from Illinois, the biggest gerrymandering area in the country. Well, besides California. That's what he had to say about it.
Look, you can't have unilateral disarmament. You have to fight fire with fire. Otherwise, the Republicans will rig the election. They see the polling that's take place. The reason they're doing this is they don't like the way things look for the midterm elections. So to maintain power, they're trying to draw maps in the middle of the census, which was never anticipated for political reasons. So how do you respond to that? Well, you have to fight fire with fire. There is an alternative, and that should be our first effort. That's what I'm offering my Republican colleagues. Pass this bill. I've served many terms in Congress in the minority, even though far more Americans voted for a Democrat for Congress than Republicans. We see the results here, the mess that we're in. It shouldn't be this on either.
What mess? Again, John Berman, CNN people, you don't ask questions when the words come out of people's mouths. What mess are we in? People are being more prosperous. Things are being peaceful. Companies are opening businesses in the United States. The tariffs are working. We're $29 billion in July. What mess are we in? Nobody asked them these questions. That's the problem, is that they rely on the media to spew this stuff and to just say all kinds of crap, and they never call them out on it. Hey, dude, what mess? Please define it for the people who are watching. Because obviously what we're seeing is Democrats are flying the coop. I showed you that yesterday with Cuomo, Stephen A. Smith, Bill Maher. What mess? The mess is you guys. That's what people don't want.
Side, but they're forcing the issue now, and we have to react.
So many people.
Okay, you don't have to react. You're a liar. You're an absolute liar. But I got an interview scheduled, and Ashley had a hard time. I mean, a hard time meaning like specific time. So I'm going to jump to that interview. We're going to come back to Texas. Many of you guys have seen over the last couple weeks what's been going on with the stock trading thing, and how at this point the Trump administration and certain people in the Trump administration are going to be cracking down on people trying to, basically do insider trading. And I bet you a bunch of them are trying to get as much done before then. But, I've got Chris Josephs coming on. Chris Josephs is the guy who put together, and he'll explain it, the Pelosi Tracker. He's been on the show before, and he also has his own brokerage called Join Autopilot. He might get mad at me. He may not call it a brokerage, but listen to this interview that he had with Chantel.
But, with Autopilot, your company, would you just, I guess, transition, if this bill were to pass, would you transition into watching congressional spouses and what they're doing with their trades, family members? Is that kind of the way that lawmakers will get around all of this?
Yeah, so this is also like why, if I were to put my business hat on as the co-founder of Autopilot, which is an app that literally partly allows you to copy the politicians and their spouses' stock trades, I think these bills and these bans get very, very complex. Like, is it constitutionally allowed to ban a member of Congress's, 28-year-old kid from buying stocks on Robinhood? I don't know if that's allowed. And part of these bills,
Right.
why it gets so complex, is like, how far can you actually go? What I can say is, like, the average everyday American,
Right.
It's pretty simple what we're asking for. As a politician, just don't trade stocks. It's it. Your kid, we can have that discussion, but let's start there. And also let's get rid of this delay on the trading. So if they do get banned, we have a lot more on Autopilot where we're now actually allowing like average everyday Americans, the people on Twitter, to launch their own portfolios. And instead of you making the stock decisions on your own, you can go to a transparent marketplace and find an investor and have them trade for you. So we have a lot more to Autopilot than just copy trading Nancy Pelosi stock trades. But if I were a betting man, I would not bet that this bill were to go through, just because of the complexity around that, and also the points of hindering future representatives and future people from the private sector from running for office is a valid point that Senator Rick Scott made on the committee yesterday. So we're nowhere near this bill actually passing. I think there's going to be a lot of work to do, but I am happy with the progress, and I'm hoping my voice helps keep that momentum going.
I said Chantel, it's Chanel. Chris, can you hear me? Chris, you're on, bro.
I can. How we doing?
Good, man. How you doing? You got me all disappointed. I thought this thing had a shot. I thought they finally could find a way to stop all this insider trading BS. And I saw that and I went, oh no. So you don't think this it's not going to get done?
I don't think this version of it will get done. And I think it won't get done for two reasons. One, there's a big part of this bill that the majority of Americans don't actually know, which is around private investments. And this is, I think, what Trump and a lot of Republicans have issues with regarding this bill. What would happen is if you are a politician or you are trying to run for to become a politician and you own a stake in a company, whether it's private or public, that has over 1,200 employees, you would have to sell out of that private stake. And that's a private investment that has nothing to do with stocks. The average American probably never even thought twice about that. But just one example of that making it complex is why I don't think this bill will get passed. Hopefully a version will get passed, but I don't think this specific one right now.
If they came to you, let's say Stephen Miller or somebody, and said, hey, Chris, what would be the bill that you would suggest that would actually work and stop this?
It's funny. I'm actually trying to get my voice out to some of these politicians to be like, hey, I run all these accounts. I have a good kind of taste and a good, I can put my finger on what the majority of Americans want. And it's very simple. You tell me if this is pretty reasonable. One, politicians are not allowed to trade individual stocks, the individual politicians. They can trade ETFs. They can put it in blind trust. No individual stocks. Two, the spouses and the children, they cannot trade stocks in industries that you sit on the committee for. Okay. So if Nancy Pelosi, being the Speaker of the House, her husband should not be able to trade stocks that she has the potential to oversee. Mm-hmm. That's another reasonable one. And then 3, get rid of the delay. Like right now, there's a 45-day delay between when a politician has to trade and when they have to publicly file that trade for the public. I think that delay is dumb. I've done a lot of research into trying to figure out why that even started to begin with, and I couldn't find too much about it. I think if they get rid of the delay, they don't allow politicians to trade individual stocks, and the spouses and dependents are limited to certain stocks, I think the majority of Americans would get on board for a ban like that.
So you mentioned a term. I always try to get people to break it down for people who don't know. Explain what a blind trust is.
So what a blind trust essentially means is if I'm a politician and, I've worked in the private sector, the public sector, and I created a $500,000 retirement account. Mm-hmm. It's good. You want that. Everyone, obviously, you should be saving for retirement. What a blind trust means is you take those assets and you give it to a third party kind of advisor or entity, and they manage that $500,000 on your behalf, but they never speak to you, and you don't even know what's in that portfolio.
Okay.
They could be buying and selling stuff, and you have no communication with them, and you have no oversight. Like, you don't tell them what to buy and sell. It's completely separate.
So in full disclosure, since we are Trump-oriented channel, is that what Trump has done with his golf courses and hotels and things of that nature? And who would then be running that trust? And are they really not talking to him?
I believe that is what they have done. And I don't think it's necessarily to Trump's fault, but it is a complex kind of guy. A private he has a ton of private businesses. His children are launching a ton of private companies as well. Yeah. So I'm sure there's kind of gray areas, and there are questions that they probably could be more communicative and just transparent about that. I think probably would benefit, because I don't think they're necessarily doing anything wrong per se. But I think when Trump initially got elected, he did move all of his assets into a blind trust. J.D. Vance, he sold out of all of his stocks. He owns only ETFs. So the President Trump and J.D. Vance, they've gone in the right direction of trying to not create conflicts of interest, and they should be praised for that. Now, there are some things that, being honest, there are things that they probably could clean up, be a little bit more transparent, a little bit more open about. But in general, they have gone roughly the right direction with regards to their personal investments.
Now, you have what's called the Pelosi Tracker, and you put that together. But besides Nancy Pelosi, who may be, the most egregious one that we all know of, this thing, it basically goes both ways, right? There's Republicans who are taking advantage of it, and there's Democrats who are taking advantage of it. So it's not it is a nonpartisan thing. Everybody's in on it, which makes the uniparty label seem even worse. So who are some of the, if you want to name, some of the Republicans who are doing basically the same thing Nancy's doing?
Yeah, this is one of the, if we were to put our finger on, what is one thing all Americans, Republican, Democrat, whatever, could agree upon, I think it's this. Like, the average politicians should not be able to trade stocks, because both sides of the aisle kind of are in the wrong here. And on the Republican side, ones that we've been keeping a close eye on is Dan Crenshaw from the beginning. He's gone on podcasts, he's gone on TV essentially criticizing people for even calling out his stock trades. That's an insane take on my part. But to be fair to him, he hasn't traded since 2022. However, his investments are crushing it. He owns Meta hit an all-time high. So we've been keeping an eye on him. One that I've been keeping a closer eye on is Representative April Delaney. And she's made a couple really interesting trades. I don't know how prominent she is, and I don't know how much, quote unquote, power she has in DC. But a trade example that we highlighted actually today in the Pelosi Tracker, and she's a Republican, I believe, is and I would have to check and actually see if she's a Republican. But she made a trade back in April where she bought shares in a biotech company called IDEXX Labs. It's a biotech company that focuses on pets, domestic pets. The day she bought that stock, they introduced an act called the Biotech Industry Act, which essentially brings in a lot of public funding for these biotech companies. The stock popped 10% that day. So she was already up 10% the day she did it. That act then gets referred to a committee that she happens to sit on. So now she's sitting on a committee overseeing that stock. And then earlier this morning, the company IDEXX Labs announced its earnings, and the stock is up 30%. So the examples like that is, I don't know if it's coincidence. I don't know if it's a proper timeline, but the thing about that stock is both Republicans and Democrats bought that stock. So it wasn't even just Representative Delaney. It was a couple of Republicans were in on it too.
Here, let me see if I can bring it up without ruining the picture here. So with both of us here. Yeah, here it is. Okay, so breaking. It's insane that politicians keep getting away with this. Remember, 3 months ago, we flagged politicians for suspiciously buying IDEX Labs. IDEX develops biotech products for livestock and agriculture. It was flagged for 3 reasons. In a span of 60 days, 3 separate politicians bought the stock. Around the same time they all bought, Congress introduced the National Biotech Initiative Act of 2025 to boost biotech funding. The act was then referred to the Agricultural Committee. The 3 politicians who bought all literally sit on the committee where the act was referred to, and the stock just crushed earnings today and popped 27%. That's insane. That's absolutely insane. They actually sit on the committee. They knew it was coming. But okay, let me ask you a question from what you've been tracking. Even if you know, if you know that the National Biotech Initiative Act is being pushed forward, then how do you know which stock to go ahead and pick? Are they just, those can't be random either. They must have some information regarding that, because there's a whole bunch of biotech stocks. Or did the entire niche there improve?
Yeah, that's a great question, because we when I have extra time, I always try and do a little bit of deeper research into it to identify, like, why buy EDXX Labs versus 2 other biotech companies. Representative Delaney specifically, she actually bought a couple different biotechs. We didn't flag it in that post, but she at that time bought a couple different biotech stocks. So she might have been spreading her, being a little bit diversified with how she could win from this. But we haven't been able to necessarily find a pattern. And I think to give a little bit of an honest answer is, like, there's no proof that they have been actively, picking stocks that deliberately benefit from it. Like, it still is the stock market. There still is no guarantees. There's still is absolute certainty that this stock is going to go up because this act was passed. But I think when you start connecting the dots and, at what point does it become shady? At what point does it become, notable? I think it was when she bought it the same day, and then that IDEXX Lab stock in particular, it specialized in agriculture, like livestock. She happens to sit on the agricultural subcommittee, and I think that's where it's like, I don't know if they're talking about stocks every day in that committee, but if you're sitting on the agricultural committee and you're buying a biotech stock that specializes in agriculture, livestock, maybe she knows something we don't. I don't know.
Are you able to track or see who it is that's placing the buy orders or sell orders? Because is there any prominent person or agency that's doing this for a number of different politicians?
That's a great question. So no, there isn't a way. Well, so yes and no. So let me be clear. When they do their filings, it can come in kind of 3 different ways. It can be on behalf of a spouse. It can be on behalf of dependent. 4 ways: spouse, dependent, which is a kid. It could be their own. Going back to kind of Mark Wayne Mullen, he's a Republican, Trump guy. He trades his own stocks and he files it as self. And then it could be a third-party financial advisor. Okay. With April Delaney, I think we've seen that it's actually her son that is trading these stocks. I don't know how the son, or why the son is buying IDEXX Labs. It's not like it's Meta. It's a pretty random company. So there's probably a little bit of suspiciousness to that, but that's what we are able to kind of track and see from the filings that they say. And I've never seen a politician use the same financial advisor per se. But that's something that I could look a little bit more into.
This may be proprietary, so if you can't answer it, of course, don't want to get your proprietary information out there. But how are you able to find that it was Congressperson Delaney or Fred Jones, or how are you able to find out who's actually making that trade?
It's all based on the Stock Act. So back in 2009, they were after the financial crisis, these politicians were freaking trading the financial crisis, which is crazy. Obama and Biden passed the Stock Act, which would force these politicians to file their trades up to 45 days. So every day we have software, Quiver Quantitative, they're great. Unusual Whales, they're great. They have these platforms where you can go and you can find the trades.
Yeah.
And then since we've been studying this stuff for years, we know what committees they sit on. We know what's suspicious. We know what's not. And we essentially just connect the dots. So we're like, okay, trade happens. This politician sits on this committee. But all the trades are public on those websites. Autopilot, our app, though, we're the first platform that allows you to put money alongside it. So you can actually trade alongside their picks. Yeah. We took
I'm going to get to Autopilot, but I have another question in terms of snooping and understanding this, and which would even make it look more suspect. When you're starting to dig in, did Miss Delaney all of a sudden become this fantastic stock person, or has she been making trades all along? Because that would be a big red flag is, hey, listen, I get into office, I haven't really been in the stock market, but now all of a sudden I'm making millions in the stock market.
That is a great question. So unfortunately, we don't know because she's a newly elected congresswoman. So she was elected back in January of 2025. That's when she started in office. So all the data we have on her is through this year. However, I'm trying to remember the stock. She's been flagged a couple different times by our team. So it's not even just IDEXX Labs. There's a couple other stocks that she bought. Another stock was a company called Tractor Supply Company, and that one was I think up like 20 to 30%. Wow. And we flagged that one back in I think March. So she's a multiple flagged politician, but we don't know anything about her before she was elected.
Are the real crazy ones who came into office with nothing? The people like Jasmine Crockett, AOC, Rashida Tlaib, what's the other one? Ayanna Pressley. These people walked in with nothing, and I understand that they're in 7 and 8 figures at this point. How does that happen?
Your guess is as good as mine. So to be fair to them, those politicians have not traded. Okay. But what they have to file annual disclosures of their financial records, and I mean these politicians we've studied, they get rich through books, they get rich through speaking engagements. There's more ways to monetize your political prowess than quote unquote insider trading. So that I think is like how Nancy Pelosi got elected and she was worth 20 million. Yeah. Which is still crazy, but now she's worth 300 million. Yeah. That doesn't happen by chance being a career-long politician. It's just not possible.
So you created an app, I think it's an app or a brokerage, Autopilot. And with Autopilot, you can trade alongside Nancy Pelosi and Mark Wayne Mullen and all these, and Ben Crenshaw. You can trade along with them. With the 45-day lag, how do you know that if Nancy Pelosi is buying ABC technology today and she's going to make some money, well, 45 days later, she could be out of the position, have already sold it, but I don't even find out about ABC Tech until 45 days later. So what happens? I mean, is it still going to be a viable move when it's not? You don't even know about it for 45 days later.
So it's a great question, and I think the interesting thing about that context is on paper and when you think about it, it does always sound worse than it is in reality. Okay. And let me give you a couple of examples. Like for example, Nancy Pelosi we track, Marjorie Taylor Greene we track. Like these politicians are trading pretty actively. However, they usually hold for a while. So Nancy Pelosi makes 2 to 3 to 4 trades a year, and when she's buying, she's holding for at least a year. Oh, wow. So whether you're buying on August 1st and then the trade doesn't come out until August 8th, right, barring, you not necessarily missing some massive spike, which we've never really seen, to be honest, you're getting in roughly around the same price as her. Oh, wow. Marjorie Taylor Greene, to credit to her, she actually files the same day she trades. So she really has no delay between when you could autopilot her stock portfolio and when she actually makes her own personal investments. And one final thought.
I didn't realize that. So it's not a 45-day. 45 days is the mandate, but if you wanted to be above board, you could file tomorrow and say, I bought this yesterday.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So 45 days is the maximum. So, I mean, there's not really many politicians that wait 45 days to do it. They usually make a trade, they publish it in a week. That's what the majority of the ones that we track. But on our app, actually, with Autopilot, like we have all the performance right then and there. So Nancy Pelosi, even with the delay, since we've been tracking her in since January of 2023, she's up around 200%. So it's insane. It's incredible. And like what people will say to us on social media is like, oh, well, what about the delay? What do you do with it? It's like, well, that is even with the delay. So you tell me, like, I still think that's a solid return, even if, she trades, if her trades come out a week after she actually does.
All right, so let's talk about Autopilot. Here's Chris's company, and a lot of people don't know, what's this mean? What would if you're looking at different portfolio management companies, things of that, financial advisors, what does that mean? AUM.
So AUM stands for assets under management, and we are not a broker dealer, but what we are is a registered investment advisor, which is kind of like the other part of the coin in the broader financial management space. And what that essentially means is we oversee the management of $800 million of retail investor money. So if you go in and you download Autopilot and you want to put $50,000 with the Pelosi Tracker, that $50,000 falls under the assets under management managed by the Autopilot registered investment advisor. So it's essentially just how much money is being invested in our platform. And to give you kind of scale, we're probably one of the fastest growing registered investment advisors in the United States over the past few years. We're still small. There's still some, that are multi-billion, but 800 million is no joke, especially for for lack of a better way to describe it, an app that allows you to copy and invest alongside politicians should not have $800 million invested alongside it. But here we are.
And so a lot of people, when they're hearing about gold, silver, crypto, the Bitcoin, XRP, what is the minimum amount somebody has to put up to get into something with Autopilot?
$500. So it costs minimum $500, and we do that for a number of reasons. Like, you shouldn't probably be using a platform like ours if you don't have a decent amount of money to invest. You probably should be trying to save it, build it, compound it, because active investing is risky. And even if you come in and you Autopilot Nancy Pelosi with $1,000, the reality is you're not going to become a millionaire. It's not a get rich quick overnight thing. This is a long term, and like our broader mission, Barry, is to like make stock picking simpler and easier for the masses. Like instead of being on Instagram and having to think about what stocks to buy every day, it's like I'll just go onto Autopilot, I'll find someone and I'll just invest alongside their stock picks. So they do the stock picking for me. Just happens that Nancy Pelosi is the best one right now.
So if you were going to go on to E-Trade or Robinhood or some of these other networks and you want to buy ABC technology, you'd have to do the lookup, actually buy the stock and everything else. If you're going to use Autopilot and you want to say, listen, I'd like to be and get into what Nancy Pelosi's doing, what's the process?
It's simple. And like what's even better is actually we don't take custody of the assets. All you do is you download the platform, you select the pilot you want to follow, whether it's a politician, we have real actual people with their own portfolios up, and then you connect your personal broker. So whether you're connecting your public account, which we have a deal with, where if you open up a public account, you get a free quarter of Autopilot for signing up. They're great over there. Whether it's a Fidelity account, a Charles Schwab account, you connect it to our platform, and then you allocate some money, and then any trade the Nancy Pelosi Tracker does, your portfolio will do the same automatically. But the beauty is it never leaves the comfort of your own broker. So you don't have to transfer your money to us. You could get started in 10 minutes. And then if you want to, sell out to go buy a house, which a lot of our clients do, you sell out, your stocks are there, and then you're good to go. You don't have to wait for us to transfer all the money back to you. It's very convenient and easy to get started.
Wow, so you're working with some of the bigger companies like Fidelity and things of that nature. Are you working with any I don't know who manages 401ks and things of that nature? Can they move things back and forth that way?
We're working on it. We are. Yeah, so we have a lot of relationships with those people. The big thing that we want to make sure is we want to make sure that the guardrails are set up so that people don't come in and, God forbid, put their life savings on a Nancy Pelosi Tracker. We're still working to make sure that this is done responsibly. And that means kind of two things. One, building out guardrails so the average everyday person that downloads our app understands this. And then two, partnering with real professional money managers to say, hey, you manage X amount of clients' assets on other platforms. Why don't you join into Autopilot? Because people like to come in, put a couple, 10,000 fund money behind the Pelosi Tracker. And then if they want to find a real financial advisor, they could do so on Autopilot as well. That's where we do plan to go. And the biggest thing there, and this is where I get passionate, so sorry I get rambling, but
no, please.
There's a lot of distrust in, ivory towers in the financial world. There's not much transparency. It's very snake oil salesy, like financial advisors, they want your money and they don't want to give it back to you. I think with a platform like Autopilot, if we can build a transparent place to find a manager and you don't have to transfer all your money to them, I think that's a net good for society and to get more people in the stock
Absolutely.
market.
I mean, I've got some people in our community here who are doing things with XRP, doing some things with Bitcoin. Are they allowed to utilize those assets to jump into stock purchases?
Not yet. So we don't do any crypto stocks yet. We're chatting with a couple of the largest crypto asset, the Coinbases, the Krakens, things of those natures. We're not public with them yet, but we eventually will be launching kind of quote unquote crypto strategies. Right now, though, since we're small, we're just focused on individual stocks and trying to make sure that the experience is the best on that, and then we'll expand.
800 million under management. We're small.
Yeah, I know, right?
Well, and I want every single person watching this. This is not a commercial. I am not being paid for this. I'm learning just as much as you guys are at this point. So here's a learning question. Excuse me. If you're allowed to say it with SEC rules. If I were to come in today and say, listen, I'm going to open an account. I'm going to put X dollars in. I don't know which person to follow, which because you're going to have a whole bunch of these pilots in here that basically, which bus do I get on? How do you recommend to somebody? This might be one of the people you want to jump on.
So we don't actually do much recommendation yet. I think that's kind of like what we're going to be building more towards. And how it works right now is if you download the app, we don't have that many portfolios, so it's a pretty easy kind of like understandable choice. And we have a leaderboard where you can kind of filter based on that. But what we're building out next over the next probably quarter to 6 months is specifically like what you're talking about. It's getting a little bit more information about the individual, saying, hey, what are your goals? How much money do you have to invest? Like, what are you essentially looking for? And then we'll start matchmaking them with different pilots and different people on the platform, because we have a large backlog of investors and passionate people that actively invest, that do long-term investing, looking to launch their funds on Autopilot. We just haven't launched them out just yet because we want to make sure we don't go too fast. We want to be very careful with growing kind of with the trust and whatnot. But I think over time, what you're talking about is exactly that. So we'll be matchmaking. We'll be not necessarily recommending, but we'll be trying to provide an answer for someone to come in and be like, hey, I want to invest in dividend stocks. Who should I follow?
Right. So I think I asked you this last time you were on, and people couldn't believe it. And I don't know how many people saw you before, but how old are you, and how did this even start?
So I'm 29 now. I'm starting to get up there. But
oh my God, 29.
Yeah, it's that social media in me, and granted, this isn't just me. My whole team, Brian, Scott, Aaron, my co-founders, this is very much a team thing. But specifically around the Pelosi Tracker, how it started was, it's actually funny enough started on TikTok, where we got behind the camera and we made a couple TikToks about Nancy Pelosi's portfolio, and then it really blew up. And then, though, I think it clicked in 2020, 2022 and 2023 around that time of they're actually pretty good. And it's what if we can kind of create an actual tracker behind it, allow people to put some of their hard-earned money behind it and, see what happens. And it's become very, very popular since. And I sleep well at night knowing okay, if they're trading stocks, at least now we have a way to get in with them. Right. And if they win, we win. If they lose, we lose too. That's part of the risk. But at least now there's an opportunity to get in on the quote unquote corruption.
Did you have a brokerage background?
I have a finance background.
Okay.
I do not have a tech background or anything of that nature. I kind of learned this all on the fly. I think like the questions that you ask are very valid. Like, why are they allowed to trade? Like, how do you find their stocks? I went through that entire learning process back in 2022.
You see, a reason why I said this wasn't a commercial, because obviously I run ads during my show, and I love talking to you and people like you because your age, you're young, you're ambitious. You went out there and did something, and I think a lot of people don't realize you have access to so much. And so one of the things, the last two questions I have for you: one, how much of what you guys do now is based on AI? And as this AI era explodes, how are you going to incorporate more AI?
It's a great question. You sound like, the investors that want to invest in us. They love this AI question. So on the day-to-day, kind of I can answer that in two questions. On the building aspect of it, our engineers use AI a lot. They're doing the classic thing, helping them code faster, move faster, et cetera, et cetera. I think there's a big opportunity, though, on the consumer side to build kind of more AI-driven portfolio strategies where, we have an AI portfolio run by a Wharton PhD where he uses ChatGPT, Grok, and DeepSeek to pick stocks. And those portfolios have around $50 million invested alongside them. Wow. So there's a demand and there's popularity around investing alongside AI. I also, though, think there's a world where AI increases education and context around people's portfolios. Right. So like you're using the XRP example. Like the majority of Americans, they might not know about XRP, but there are creators, there are people like you that can educate the masses about it. I think using AI to tell people about XRP in a different way, make it simpler, expand on why it's moving. I think there's a massive opportunity with that. Right. Do I think it will replace a stock picking individual and just everyone's going to be following AI? I do not. I think there still will always be a human element to it. I think there's an inherent trust around a human, especially with your money, that you don't necessarily have for AI yet. So we're not kind of exploring that vertical, but I do get very excited around AI content driven stuff.
As you mentioned, you started your company a while back. Now President Trump is in here. Did you notice any different after the election? And I guess twofold question to close here is, had you noticed anything different after the election? And are there opportunities being opened up for you in the future?
We haven't noticed too much. I mean, to be honest, like I again, like what gets so freaking tricky about this topic is you don't know how entrenched it is into like the establishment, kind of thing, the quote unquote establishment of like who's incentivized to really stop this. Right. They're all doing it.
They're all doing it.
Exactly. I think the thing to be careful of that we're keeping a close eye on is around crypto, because I know that the Trump administration, they're very pro crypto, which is great. Right. They also, though, they're talking about crypto. The Eric Trump has that crypto company. So we're keeping a close eye on if anything goes on in that. And we rightfully will, transparently speaking, we'll flag anything that we see as very suspicious. We haven't really seen anything too much yet. There's a little bit around ETFs that Trump did, which we didn't fully agree with, that we called them out on. But we haven't really seen anything vastly different. Do I think there's an opportunity? I think there is a world where we can get President Trump and the administration on board. I think to get this actual ban through, if any politician were to do it, it probably would be him, because he has the power and the gall to do it. I think the tricky part is we'll have the private investment stuff. I don't think he'll be able to get the Republicans on board. I think that's just too hard. If we simplify the bill, if we make it easy, satisfy the American people, we can build on that. If there's more corruption that comes out in private investments 3 or 4 years down the line, we then ban that. But I think starting with the stocks, don't let the politicians do it. Get a win under your belt. That's what my recommendation would be for President Trump. Because again, 86% of Americans want this ban passed. And that is 86% Democrats as well. Which, the independent voters, this could be a great little win heading into the midterm elections.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm looking to see, I got a question for you. Let me put this on the screen so you can see it, because I can't answer that. Question from Michael says, can you invest in Chris Joseph's site mentioned if you're in England? I'll let you handle
Unfortunately not.
Okay.
No, so right now we're only USA based. And what we're working on is we're actually working with one of the large international brokers to be able to supply that. So Michael, I would recommend following our Autopilot account on Twitter or Instagram, or even just signing up and just putting your email in. We'll be emailing everyone once we launch internationally. But the plan is to be able to launch that early 2026, if not late 2025. We're actually working on that integration as we speak.
Somebody says here, just a nice compliment for you, and I like this. Says there are many young people that are smart, and this is one of them that has actually applied himself. It's absolutely true, and that's another thing. In getting with people is one. It's almost like a lot of people are apprehensive in doing anything different and understanding the world that's out there available for them. And, as a grandfather with a young grandson just getting ready to go to college in a year or two, want to let them know and want to let people here know you're not stuck. you can do it. There's so much. So what's next for you guys? Last question. What's next for you guys with Autopilot?
So I appreciate even I couldn't catch your names, but the kind words on it, because the big thing about it is we don't come from this massive tech background. We didn't go to the Harvards, we didn't go to the Stanfords. I knew no investors. I knew nothing about Twitter. I didn't have a Twitter account before I started this. But what I realized though is if you can't trust your institutions, starting with your politicians, society from there is going to eventually become a society where you don't trust anything. And if you don't trust anything, you're screwed. And I think that's the demise of where traditional media happened. No one trusts the New York Times, things like that, because they lost that credibility. I don't want that happening to the politicians. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to build this momentum, this movement to get them banned from trading. And once that happens, we'll finally be able to retire this account. I'll be able to move on to the next thing, because I get excited about helping retail investors get started with investing. And I think that's where I want to go to next. And there's a massive thing, which, maybe 2 to 3 years, we're talking about this down the line of people with their retirement accounts, with the money that they're investing, they don't understand your money is actually building that company that you're investing in.
Yeah.
So there's a big disconnect because a lot of people don't manage their own money, and they don't have say in managing their own money, that their money can be building companies and in a future that they don't necessarily want.
Yeah.
So for example, if you are, anti-China, your stock shouldn't have stocks in Chinese, you shouldn't have money in Chinese stocks. But a lot of these financial advisors, they put their clients' money in companies that are in direct opposition to that individual's personal beliefs and personal passions. That's where we want to go to next. We want to build the largest transparent marketplace, the largest RIA, where individual investors have their money safely managed in a transparent place where they still have a say in where their money goes, so that it aligns with their values and it builds a future that they want.
It's funny. When I asked you the question, what's next for Chris Josephs and what's next for Autopilot, I was partly thinking to myself, with $800 million under management, maybe he's got an exit strategy and he's just going to sell off the company to some big investment brokerage and buy a resort in Tahiti and call it a day at 29 years old. And you're like, I'm still ready to work. I got to do more. And I absolutely love that, because I'm sure you've been approached. I'm sure that's an option, but you're like, no. I'm still going to keep doing this. Even though I'm 29, I got lots of runway left, and I commend you for that ambition, that initiative. Because you got to be having people knocking on the door constantly. We want this. We want this.
Yeah, we get them once a week. We do. We do. and I think the biggest thing is it's just what would I do instead? I would take I'd take care of my parents. Obviously, I got 5 brothers. They're all back in the Boston area. We'd all kind of work on that together. But I think the opportunity around this, even if we were to think on a monetary value aside from politics, I think this is the opportunity to be a multi-billion-dollar opportunity, business, etc. So all the people that are even reaching out to us now, I don't need the money. I don't want the money. I'm in a happy spot. I'm chilling. If you offer me $10 billion, maybe we'll talk. Look, let's be honest here. I'm still a human, but We're not there just yet.
I absolutely love it. Chris, thank you very much. Continued good luck with Autopilot and your personal investing as well. And eventually when those big sharks is going to come call it, they may throw the big $10 billion number at you. And you deserve it, bro.
Then maybe that's, at that point, maybe we'll come back and I'll be like, look, Barry, I'm sorry, I had to do it.
All right. Thank you, brother. Have a good day.
All right, see you. Bye.
Hey guys, I hope you guys enjoyed that. And again, if you'd like to go ahead and follow Chris, actually I have two things I can show you. One, the Autopilot site is right here at Join Autopilot, and you can go to the Pelosi Tracker. There's a pretty thing here down here. And then let me go ahead and bring up his personal site, which is Chris Joseph's, at Chris Joseph's, co-founder, Join Autopilot. And like I said to you guys, that wasn't a commercial. That's somebody we've had on. We've had other people say, can you get him back on? Yeah. And there's somebody with the Bitcoin that we spoke to a while ago. And I just want to get you guys some educational information so that if you choose to want to better yourself, you can do so. You can figure out. You know what's funny? When I gave him the question, I knew the answer. I'm like, hey, would Trump come along? Are things different? No. And that should have been something you really keyed in, is because all the crap that are all talking, the Democrats, oh, Trump, oh, it's so horrible. I told you over and over, they're all just making their money. They're doing conservative financial planning. It is so obvious at this point. Nancy Pelosi wouldn't be throwing millions and millions and millions and making more money while telling the poor people, yeah, you poor people, I got to give you some bread and food stamps and your EBT card. Now move along with your Obama phone as I go ahead and make some gazillions over here. Understand you're being played. Well, especially from the Democrat perspective. Millionaires and billionaires. Those millionaires and billionaires, not the ones here. We're going to get back to the Texas stuff here in just 90 seconds, all right? We're just going to do this.
Back to Fanfare with Barry Cunningham.
Moved into the country into the state so quickly. Last year, Texas passed Florida as the #1 destination for in-migration. Their population, they took in 133,000 net increase in population. They just surpassed 30 million people. So when you've got so many people fleeing into the state, then you've got to redraw the districts to reflect the population gains. And so I think that's one of the reasons why they're doing it. But what's interesting about this is that going forward, this whole population and migration thing is going to completely change the political map, because states like Texas and Florida and these red states are gaining massive numbers of population, and that means after the 2030 census, there's going to be a migration of congressional seats and electoral votes away from the blue wall states. So Trump won.
In addition to that, you're talking about a mass exodus of money. See, well, that's one of the things that the Democrats they don't like to say, but when you bring in the third world, they don't have any money. And so if you're chasing business and affluent people away, and they're like, hey, I'm gone. See, New York's starting a war that they can't win. That's the biggest problem New York has right now. Kathy Hochul can get out there and talk big all she wants, but if Wall Street decided they were just going to close up and head south, they're done. Good luck. Your tax base evaporates instantly. So you're picking a war. You're starting a fight. You're starting a war. You're picking your opponents who can't sustain you. You're picking your advocates. They can't win. There is so much capital that will move out of New York City if this is where it goes. If they end up being a commie Marxist haven, gone. There's no way Broadway can survive. There's no way Wall Street can survive. There's no way all that real estate can survive. So they've got to do something, because even President Trump with his properties in New York City, you're going to have military surrounding it. If this guy does, I know he came out today and said something like, oh, I want to hire more police because he needs that vote. But nobody believes him. And so now you're going to go ahead and fight a war. You're going to declare war basically on America. Remember, she's not in Texas. So for her to say she's declaring a war because they're redistricting in Texas, you're not talking about people in Texas anymore. You're trying to get us into something. You can't win. Remember the rules from Sun Tzu? You don't get in an unwinnable war. You don't get into a fight that you can't end. We learned that from Vietnam as a country. And I learned it many times with people who would try me as a bouncer. Like, what are you doing, man? I will kill you. You don't get into that kind of a fight when there's no way out of it for you other than a stretcher. And this is what she's looking at.
Presidency by breaking the Democrats' blue wall. After 2030, if Democrats win the blue wall, they still won't have enough votes to win the presidency, because electoral votes are going to shift to Texas, they're going to shift to Florida, they're going to shift to the South, away from these disastrous blue states. And so this is a major tectonic shift that's taking place in American politics, and this is just a rumbling of that.
So interesting.
A huge tectonic shift. Bob Sandstrom said a very interesting comment, and he's absolutely true. That's New York City, not New York State. New York State is beautiful. If you've never been, because every time somebody thinks of New York, they think New York City. I lived in Connecticut, and I almost went to Cornell, and there's all kinds of other places out there. It's absolutely beautiful. Mountainous, especially in October, November, the way the leaves change, it's absolutely Niagara, beautiful. But the money center of basically the world is in New York City. And they're not going to be as financially viable as a state if they lose that kind of capital. So yes, you're absolutely right. It's very beautiful. Love being up in New York, especially up in the Catskills and things like that. But they got a problem.
California is threatening to do the same, but to try to have more Democratic districts. So we'll watch how it all plays out. Thank you so much, Mark Thiessen. We'll have much more on their midterms.
If Donald Trump is allowed to do this, if he is allowed to once again cheat and get away with it, there is no stopping this. This will spread across the country.
This is un-American, and this is undemocratic. Republicans are stealing our democracy right before our very eyes.
And nobody asked this question. I would like to raise a question. When I steal something, I would, and yes, I have stolen, because I've gone into the refrigerator and taken food that's not mine, it's hers. And we have a 24-hour rule in the house. Hey, listen, if you leave a leftover or something in the refrigerator for longer than 24 hours, it's fair game. But under 24 hours, it's supposed to be safe. And I've opened up things and taken it. I'm not supposed to do that. It's not mine. How do you steal a voter? Oh, are they no longer allowed to vote? Yeah, they can still vote. So it's not being suppressed. No. So they can still go to the polling place, wherever they are in Texas, no matter how the line is districted or shown, they can still vote. They can still let people know who their preferred candidate is. Yes. So you can still vote. See, maybe what you should say to people, and it might make more sense, is they're making certain votes possibly irrelevant. Well, why would that be? If John Smith, let's use a name. If Jasmine Crockett is running for office, but the district that she's in now gets reappropriated, and she loses because more people voted for her opponent than voted for her. Where did the vote get stolen? Oh, there's less idiots in the district because now they're in other districts. But don't they get to vote wherever they're going to be? You see, the whole thing with redistricting, by labeling it a theft or suppression, you get the opinion in your head that these people now like, oh, you live over here, you can't vote. I want to vote. Nope, you're outside the district. No, you still can vote. You can still vote. So nothing's been stolen. They're lying.
With Democrats out of the state, the vote that was scheduled to take place during the state's special session is at risk.
We know that you are making great sacrifices to resist the power grab that's being perpetrated by Donald Trump, by Governor Abbott, and by Texas Republicans. We will not let power go unchecked.
Yeah. Right. Dude, who's we? You're in Illinois. Which, by the way, is probably one of the worst places in terms of gerrymandering. But who's we? This is a Texas deal. This is a Texas issue, not in Illinois, not New York. How did this all of a sudden become a national issue? Because this is the fight they need to have.
Or let your voices and their voices go unheard.
DNC Chair Ken Martin displaying his support for Texas Democrats as well, saying, quote, "For weeks, we've been warning that if Republicans in Texas want a showdown to cravenly protect Trump from an inevitable midterm meltdown, then we give them that showdown." The DNC is proud to support these legislators.
Who wants a showdown? You guys are talking in such violent terms. Like at noon, we're all going to go out there and start drawing or something. What showdown? You lost the election. Elections have consequences. The people who were voted in by the people are doing something that they choose to be better interest of the state of Texas. There's no showdown. There's no fight. These are the repercussions and results of losing elections. There's nothing in the state constitution that says, hey, you know what? You don't like what the people voted for. Go ahead and just fight them. No. Your remedy, your sole remedy is to win. That's it. And if you can't win, you try again to win. You don't do all kinds of stuff. And then they paint it as though the Republicans are the ones that are cheating. I'm pretty sure leaving your district and absconding and not voting the way the people who put you in there, sometimes it sucks, you lose. I've lost. You lose. It just happens. The kids shouldn't be watching this. This stuff should have like a R rating. Young kids shouldn't watch these people act like this. These are our politicians, and they're losers. And this is how they're acting.
In standing up and showing real leadership. The proposal at issue could net 5 new GOP seats, redrawing lines to include more Republican-leaning areas in cities like Dallas and in Houston. We're going to see how it all plays out 3 p.m. in Texas. Back over to you.
All right, Todd, thank you.
You know, it's amazing to listen to Democrats complain about this. Nobody has mastered the gerrymandering game more than Democrats have. But I do think it's so telling. What makes people mount the barricades? Is it all the problems that their constituents are suffering through? Or is it just their access to power? Well, they mount the barricades over their own power.
Well, they could have retained power if they played ball. This was always going to happen if the moderate Dems left and were replaced by progressives there. There's been many of times where, past representatives said, okay, we'll give and take with the Republicans. And so they allowed them to keep their drone area because there was a way to do government with them. But now that you
see that's Lawrence hit it there. The problem is that you've allowed these nuts like Jasmine Crockett, like the AOCs, to infiltrate your party to where you look completely insane, and now you're catering to the nuts. And you don't have any decorum. You don't have any way of managing what people want or what they don't want. It's all about your agenda. I've lived in areas that were, Democrat rule. I really didn't notice any difference. Because, people just voted a certain way. You can't do this or you can do that. But now it's become their religion. It's their faith. And they don't want America the way it is. That's the problem. You guys have all been around certain Democrats. Yeah, they're crazy, blah, blah, blah. But they didn't hate America. They weren't trying to destroy our way of life and shove this wokeism crap down your throat over and over and over. Nope, that didn't happen until some guy named Obama got in office. Everything's racist, racist, racist. What did you think was going to happen? At some point, we don't look like her, but we're all going to become Sydney Sweeney. I'm done. We're done with you. And that's what they can't take. She's just the icing on the cake. Because she feels like most of us feel. Like, hey, that's advertising. That is how things were, whether it be cigarettes or Fruit Loops or cake or hamburgers. It was normal Americans doing it, not some crazy people on the fringe, not some guy in a dress and a beard walking into a woman's beauty product supply. What is this? This is not us. You're trying to force it on us. The whole Dylan Mulvaney thing with Bud Light. Huh? No. When you don't have anything the American people want, this is what happens. They can't accept the fact that nobody wants to date them. Y'all crazy. No. We don't want this fringe to be ruling everybody else. That was your big mistake. You went off the deep end.
The Crockett's of the world who don't want to play ball, they don't want to work for their constituents of both parties. Now the Republicans are like, okay, kick rocks.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting to see where this goes. So he's got the threat out there to remove them if they don't return today. But by the way, if they don't return today and they wait, he can start another special session and that timeline starts over again. They'll have to go.
Okay, so that's what I was telling you yesterday. They can't win this. They are doing their best to delay, but it is an unwinnable fight. The governor can just go, we're going to do it again. You're going to take off again? Eventually, you have to come back home. You people don't have lives? It doesn't make any sense. It's not like you can wait it out. They can wait you out. It's just a matter of time. They'll be back. And pretty soon, here's what the really dangerous part about this is. And I keep telling you, you got a couple weeks and football season starts in earnest. It'll be over. Trust me, especially in Texas. Oh, high school football in Texas is about as big as college and NFL. Yeah, if you don't sleep on that. Don't sleep on the fact that the NFL and college football are basically back right now. And once that begins, all the eyeballs who may be looking at them are just going to be looking over here. The only people they'll be talking to are the purple-haired nose-ring idiots. Nobody else is going to care. None. It's over. It's done. Trump got through to the summer, and now people are living their lives, going on vacation, cheaper tickets, cheaper this, better gas, food, restaurants, and they're living. Which is the worst thing for the desperate Democrats, is because people start enjoying life. Your misery cries don't work. I'm telling you, in about 2 weeks, you're going to see 100,000 people per stadium all around the country. having a great time. All kinds of stuff like that. No matter if your team sucks, like Notre Dame is my favorite team, but they'll still suck and it'll be sold out and people will be having. And you know what's really funny about that? The person sitting right next to you might be a Democrat. And they're out there, they don't care. They're living their lives. We used to do that. We didn't say, hey, are you one of those Trump people? Yeah, I don't want to be sitting next to you in the stadium. Nope, that's not how life used to be. I didn't care if you were a Democrat. You're for Notre Dame. That's our commonality. Once we start amplifying commonality, these people are toast. That's what you need to be doing, amplifying commonality. We used to go to movies. We didn't ask the person next to him, hey, you got a red hat on over there. Nope. That's a pretty good movie. Yeah. Go to a restaurant. Go to a nightclub. You didn't have a qualifying factor. They put that there. You used to go see a concert. That's one of the reasons why at night I play music, because I try to let people remember. Remember this time? Remember where you were back in 1987 or 1988 when you had the big hair and you were doing things and, you know, the guys were cool and nobody walked up to you at the bar and said, hey, you a Trump supporter? No, that question never came up. You Democrat? Nope, never came up. Hey, can I buy you a drink? I'll find out later how much of an idiot you are, but hey, can I buy you a drink? We approached people. We lived our lives. And our commonality was that activity that we were doing. If you were a Notre Dame fan and you were at the game with me, we had commonality. If you're a Cowboys fan and you were miserable, we had commonality. You're a Dolphins fan right now and you're miserable, there's your commonality. You don't even have to bring up politics. That is the end of the Democrat Party. Because once people realize this fall, I'm telling you, once people realize this fall how life can be the way it used to be, they're done. The grievances are over. It's Kaputski. Watch.
Eventually and go back.
Well, he can also call the Texas Rangers and DPS to come pull their tails back to the state of Texas. He does have that authority as well. Hopefully it doesn't escalate to that. But they have chosen these offices, and he is part of the law in Texas.
And you make a really great point about the idea about working together.
Yeah.
You know, and again, Democrats have met. Nobody knows how to gerrymander more than Democrats. They have mastered the art of gerrymandering, and they have for a long time. One of the problems with districts that look as crazy as the ones that Democrats have mastered in the gerrymandering process is you wind up with these extreme districts as opposed to sort of more normalized districts where people are forced to actually not just represent some extreme, side of their, whether it's right or left, but actually you have to work together because you have to work for all your constituents. It actually.
Imagine that. Imagine Jasmine Crockett understanding, hey, you got some Republicans in here, and they need to have something rezoned so the guy can open his new pizza parlor or his barbecue restaurant. It's Texas, after all. And we all want the same thing. Hey, listen, I don't want this crap in our schools. We're going to open this charter school. We need you to, get it done for us. That's the problem. They have become so ideologically exclusive that if you don't believe what they believe, I can't work for you. But you're my congressperson. What do you mean? The dam needs to be rebuilt. The bridge on Elm Street needs to be rebuilt. Doesn't matter if I'm Democrat or Republican. I drive over that bridge. That's what the Democrats don't understand, is they are basing everything on 100% ideology. If you don't believe what we believe, I'm not going to help you. Think I'm lying? You're going to hear what Jasmine Crockett says about your president in a little while. They hate you. They don't represent you. They hate you. So how do you have any common ground with people who really don't want any commonality with you? You couldn't go up to, not that you would, but you couldn't go up to Jasmine Crockett and say, hey, listen, let's go sit at the Cowboys game and have a beer. Leave your politics at home. No, because somebody might take a picture of her sitting next to me. Oh, you're sitting with that MAGA guy? Oh, my God. Oh, no, you can't be sitting next to that MAGA guy. When I was growing up in Connecticut, I knew he was a crook, But Joe Lieberman was our senator, rest in peace, or senator. And I used to do work with Joe Lieberman. Why? Because he was the guy that would get certain things approved. And then he'd be at the football games. He'd be there too, because with his cousin or nephew or whatever, he'd come to our high school games. You, just what I'm trying to do is to let you peel back before all this fighting began and just think for yourself. Did you ever used to, I don't know, do anything, work with, date, be friends with the next door neighbor who didn't share your political ideology, but somehow you still survived? That's making America great again. That, all the way back then, when we could look at that person, oh, that's one of those stupid Democrats. Hey, Fred, can I borrow the lawnmower? Oh, no problem. You remember those days? Now you can't do that. You got to build a big high wall with barbed wire and make sure that it's secure so that MAGA guy can't come across. There's something wrong with these people.
Turns out that makes for better, probably better, more effective people in Congress.
Yeah. What do you mean this is an effort to steal the midterm elections?
See, that's the question I asked earlier. Yeah, what do you mean steal? They can still vote, right? You don't make any sense. At least she tried that question.
The Republicans in Texas already drew a gerrymandered map that is being challenged in court as we speak. But that's not good enough for them. So they now want to enact a separate map in the middle of the decade that takes 5 seats that are currently held from Democrats, including several in majority-minority communities around Austin, Houston, and Dallas, breaks them apart and tries to put them into Republican hands.
A good reporter would have asked a follow-up question that he wouldn't have been able to answer. See, what the Democrats are saying right now, which is indicative of what I just said, is that if we redraw these lines, these people will never vote for us. How could you possibly know today that if there's a line drawn, you couldn't get these people who live on this side of the line to vote for a Democrat? By him saying that, he's acknowledging we don't want nothing to do with you. Instead of saying, okay, I've got my work cut out for me, I have to provide some incentive. I've got to let these people know that I can do something for them, which would then get them to vote for me. I'm better than the other guy, not that he's a white honky. What's your ability? I'm sitting in the audience right now. I'll go listen to a Democrat talk. What do you want to do for me? Oh, nothing. Why the hell would I vote for you? So it's not taking away a vote. It's not taking away your ability to entice these people. It's taking away ideology. These people on this side of the line, they don't want nothing to do with you. This country can only heal and only come back when this kind of stuff isn't talked about anymore. When you got to get out there on a stump and you don't go to a rally with everybody who believes what you believe. That doesn't make any sense. I don't even understand it with the Trump rallies. I would love to see President Trump. Well, actually, he did. I'm wrong. He went to the Bronx. He went right into the belly of the beast. He went into New Jersey. Democrats won't go to where red districts are because they got nothing to say to us. I would love for Hakeem Jeffries or whoever to come here in Boca and do a rally. Now, it'd be easy to get a hold of me because there'd only be like 10 people standing there, but I would ask you, what are you going to do for Boca? I don't want to hear nothing about the, LGBTQ. I don't want to hear about the newcomers. I don't want to hear about baby removal. What are you going to offer us? What can you do for us? Are you going to make the traffic easier? You're going to help it lower insurance rates? And tell me how you're going to do all this. No, we got to make sure guys in dresses play sports. Yeah, I'm out.
Extremists want to be able to choose their voters as opposed to allowing the Texas voters to choose the people who should be privileged to represent them in Washington. It's theft. That's what gerrymandering in its extreme form is. And that's what Republicans are trying to do.
Is that the case then if Texas repercussions lead to California, lead to New York, lead to Illinois, potentially doing the same in those states to try to pick up more Democratic seats?
Great question. We're going to respond and respond forcefully. However, we also will operate within the constraints of the Voting Rights Act, which is not what Texas Democrats are doing. We need fair.
She actually gave him an opportunity. She tried to let him, dude, come clean here and say, it's wrong there too. Nope, he didn't say it. It's good for us, bad for them.
Maps and one national standard. And that's why responses in Democratic states will be required. However, what was happening in Texas before and what is going on in Texas right now in terms of this second attempt to gerrymander the map, we believe violates the Voting Rights Act. You will not see that happen in Democratic states, but you will see governors and state legislatures and, of course, members of the House Democratic Caucus respond in kind. There is no unilateral disarmament. When we're in the middle of an all-out assault by Donald Trump and Republican sycophants on the economy, on health care, on our way of life, on law-abiding immigrant communities, on democracy itself.
So Trump came up with a new...
Wow, these people are in a bad, bad way. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. Crazy what they're saying. And you can just see it in his eyes. And this woman tried to give him a couple different outs. She tried to make it so that he could do something. Say the right thing. Be a politician. I'm here for all Texans. Nope. They are their own worst enemy at this point. Anybody watching this stuff is like, this is insane. Why don't you just go to Texas and try to win people over? No, can't do that.
Scheme. Rig the system by ramming through a corrupt mid-decade redistricting plan that would steal 5 congressional seats, silencing millions of voices, especially black and Latino voters.
Wait. Why is it always on us? Why is it always like the black people thing? You don't know about these black people. So they're so bad. They can't even understand about voting. They can barely use computers. It's 2025. I don't even know how they feed themselves at this point. Can they use forks? I don't know. Do they understand what a knife is? It's horrible. It's always us. Can you stop mentioning us? Can you please say it's some white people? Just white people don't know what they're doing. It's going to affect them really, really bad. How does it only affect blacks and Latinos? How the white people don't get affected? It's absolutely mind-blowingly disgusting. Always falling back on that sword. Poor black peoples. You know what? You've been in power for quite some time in Chicago. Maybe if you helped the black people, you wouldn't have to pander to them for votes. There's a thought. Maybe in 2025, 50 years later after Martin Luther King, you could have done something where every black person in the city knows how to use the damn computer, knows where the voting stations are, knows how to get an ID. Oh no, has an ID. But, oh my goodness, the black peoples. You have to understand, they're second-class citizenry. They don't understand all this stuff. It's too complicated for them. It's extra complicated. I'm sick of it. I am absolutely sick of it in 2025. Anybody tagging something in a sentence, it's going to affect the black people. Because it shouldn't affect anybody. If you have black constituents, if you have Hispanic constituents who have a problem getting ID and learning how to vote, that's on you. You just saw a 29-year-old kid who's got $800 million under management and created a financial advisory firm that's probably worth a couple $2 billion, and we have a problem getting black people to get IDs. Anybody else find that disgusting?
Be clear, this is not just rigging the system in Texas. It's about rigging the system against the rights of all Americans for years to come. Now, Texas Republicans submitted to the president's orders and took steps to advance Trump's Texas takeover. And while Texas Democrats have been trying to work across the aisle to deliver disaster relief after the devastating floods in central Texas, Republicans chose to use the tragedy as political cover to cheat. That brings us to today. Texas Democrats were left no choice but to leave their home state, block a vote from taking place, and protect their constituents.
My dad, when I was younger, I mean real young, 13, 14, I'm going to date myself here, and one day he gave me a roll of dimes. He goes, "This is for you." What am I doing with a roll of dimes? Never come back here, or if I should find out that you didn't have a way to get something done. All you got to do, back then it was payphones, put the dime in and call for help. You always have an option. There is never no option. We didn't have any option but to leave. A mental midget knows he's full of crap. You always have options. You don't have to do what your friends are going to do if you're not comfortable. You got a dime, call me, I'll come pick you up. Anywhere, anytime, no questions asked. All right, Dad. You always have a way out. And now with cell phones, we always tell our family members now, hey, I don't care what time of day it is. If you need me, you call me. Wake me up. I don't turn my ringer off at night. Call me. You always have a lifeline. You always have somebody you can contact. You always have options. Women who are in abusive relationships and they're getting beat on. Back in the day, they used to say, I didn't have any options. Oh, you got all kinds of options now. You can throw his ass in jail or call your brother and whoop his butt. You have options. You're telling me if we, as citizens, have to make sure that we maintain our options as adults, that we always have a way out, that you don't ever enter in any situation without knowing the way out. Go into a restaurant. What are you doing? Well, I'm weird, but I go in and I survey. Okay, I'm going into this building. I got to make sure I know how to get out of here. I want options. And this man who's a politician is telling you that they, as elected officials, don't have the sense and the ability and mental capacity to do what you do on a daily basis. And they had no options. They had to leave. Then you got the wrong people in power. If at that point they didn't have any options or felt they didn't have any options, you voted in morons. I would make a campaign slogan about that. We didn't have any options. We had to run. You had to cower? Is that what you had to do? How about this option? How about you stay your ass in Texas, take the loss, and tell your constituents, I tried, I didn't get it done, I failed, I will try harder. Well, I can stand up for that. I can stand up for somebody who looks me in the face and goes, I just didn't do what I was supposed to do and I failed. But I promise you I'm going to work harder. Not take off. And then have somebody who's not even from my state talk to me. These poor people, these black peoples back here, had no options. Nothing.
This is a righteous act of courage. And we can all take a page from these leaders' playbook. When you show people that you have the will to fight, well, they can muster the will to fight too.
That's right.
I don't know how many of y'all been in fights, but the last thing I want to do is, okay, all right, let's go. We're going to throw down. Me and my boys here are ready for this. And the guy across from you goes, what boys? These boys. Oh, they all took off. The will to fight, they're gone. I ain't never been in a fight in my life where the will to fight was, hey, okay, hold on a second, and run. Nope, it doesn't work that way. Not anybody who sits around with a pair, and some women too. I've been around this woman when she was younger. Off the high heels would come, and I'm like, hey, what are you doing? Oh, no, you're not doing that, honey. No. Okay, let's go. Let's throw it. Yeah, that's why she's here too, by the way. I realized, a little side note, I realized there was some fire in that belly. I knew we're going to get through anything in life because I saw it early. Let me take these shoes off and put my hair. Hey, slow down. I got this. That's what you want to see. You want to see somebody who kicks off the heels and pulls her hair back. Okay, let's go. Not takes off. Hey, honey, what? Oh, why are you running back to the car? No, I don't want that. I want fighters.
Courage is contagious.
I'm asking everybody to remember that quorum break is a tool that the founding fathers of Texas put in place when the minority party knows that the majority has gone off the rails and is doing something against the interest and will of the voter. Thousands of you have come out to say you do not.
Thousands? Ooh. Ooh, thousands? I'm pretty sure Texas is a big-ass state. You're actually putting yourself on video going, thousands of people have told me I'm doing the right thing by running. Good luck in your next election.
Want your seats stolen by Trump. The big ugly bill passed by one vote, and he is afraid of you going to the polls in November of 2026. He has asked Governor Abbott to break the rules and get him 5 new Republican seats. You all spoke up in Austin. They pushed it. They put it on the floor. And so please know that this extraordinary step of a quorum break is so that your voices can be heard. If they're not.
What about the other people in Texas?
Going to be heard here in Texas, then we are breaking quorum to go to the nation and say, this is it. You must stop Trump's takeover.
Greg Abbott is threatening to remove you and your colleagues if you don't return by this afternoon. And Attorney General Ken Paxton is calling for arrests, saying the state should, quote, hunt down those who think they're above the law. Does that worry you at all?
I mean, I think it shows how desperate they are. I'm not surprised that they would levy these threats because I realize my colleagues have fallen victim to them. When Trump threatened to primary them and have them lose their seats, if he wouldn't give what he wanted on public education and vouchers, they did it. And so now Trump has again said he wants Greg Abbott and Texas Republicans to give him 5 congressional seats because he is afraid of voters in November of 2026.
There's that afraid word again. There's that word fear again while she's sitting in a hotel in Chicago. What's that, 1,000 miles away? The only people afraid are you guys. You can't imagine living under the rule of government of a different ideology. Meanwhile, many of us have done it. We've had to suffer through losses. Matter of fact, we had to suffer, the entire country, like 80 million people back in 2020. Remember that? But you didn't see us doing that. Nobody ran. Nobody did the stuff that you're doing right now. You took off like wussies.
They, again, have said they'll give it. Quorum break is an extraordinary act. It is not anything I take lightly. It is almost the last tool that I have available to us in the Texas Constitution.
No. There's one more tool. Go back to work. Take the L. Try harder next time. As a person who played competitive sports for a long time, there's no way you can tell me your only option was to run away. You know what? I would have much more respect for a single Democrat to come out and say, we got beat and we don't like what's happening. We hate it. But, until we win in the midterms, that's it. There's nothing else we can do. We can protest by our down vote. So if the votes are always going to be 55 to 45 because of whatever their numbers are, then that's what it is. That's what it is for at least the next 2 years. And then what you do is start highlighting the things the Republicans did that you think you can do better. Not just not play. These people don't deserve to be politicians.
By the founding fathers, for the minority party, when you know that the majority has gone off the rails and is doing something in violation of every constituency. And so I don't take this lightly, but I also know that the threats that are making just shows how desperate they are. But I don't expect Democrats to be on the floor at 3 o'clock to give them a forum.
You said in your statement that you put out today.
All right, so let's look ahead right now. So what perfect timing. It is now 3 o'clock. So I know, SV, if you're going to be watching and seeing, what exactly happens next, because, all hell could break loose and we could see what's going to happen. But this is what Greg Abbott had to say earlier.
To all of them, in a letter to them. You said, in addition to abandoning their offices, these legislators may also have committed felonies. What is the felony? What are the penalties for this?
So very simply, it would be bribery if any lawmaker took money to perform or to refuse to perform an act in the legislature. And the reports are these legislators have been they sought money and they offered money to skip the vote, to leave the legislature, to take a legislative act. That would be bribery. And so the facts will have to come out. But I think based upon comments made by legislators themselves, they face a possibility of facing bribery charges, which is a second-degree felony in the state of Texas. There's one way to cure that, and that is if they get back to the state of Texas and make quorum today at a hearing that we have at 3 o'clock, they can cure themselves of any quid pro quo that would subject them to potential bribery charges.
All right.
Texas Governor.
All right, so they have to be back by 3 o'clock, which it is right now. I'm understanding by looking at some news that just came in, I was able to search some feeds while you guys were listening to Greg Abbott, where they have said, no, we're not coming back. This is from literally 2 minutes ago from Martha McCallum.
Texas House Democrats will not be returning to their home state, despite Governor Abbott's warning that they could face removal from office if they are not back by 4 o'clock Eastern time today. Instead, they just announced a press conference at 7 p.m. And where are they? In Warrenville, Illinois, is where those Texas representatives will be speaking from, just about an hour outside of Chicago. This evening around 7 o'clock. They've been in Illinois. They've been in other states. They're protesting this GOP effort to redraw the congressional map. We know that both sides, Republicans and Democrats, are pretty good at getting very creative in carving out these lines. The Texas governor feels this is a legitimate move. The president supports it as well. We'll see where this whole thing goes. We'll be watching.
All right, so they're not coming back. So now it's all going to be on Greg Abbott and whatever enforcement he and Ken Paxton can do. They're not coming back. They said, to hell with it. You can't make me. Now, here we go. Lines in the sand. Let's make it happen. Let's see if President Trump gets involved and gets the military involved. How can you do that? From what Greg Abbott is saying, it is a federal offense at this point. Does Pam Bondi get involved? Does, Kash Patel? This thing could blossom very quickly in front of us into something none of us wants to see. Well, actually, I wouldn't mind seeing some of these people dragged out by their hair. I'd love to see it.
Greg Abbott says he will try to take your seats away if you don't go back. Let me read you what he said. He said, this truancy ends now. The derelict Democratic House members must return to Texas and be in attendance when the House reconvenes at 3 p.m. today. For any member who fails to do so, I will invoke Texas Attorney General Opinion Number KP0382 to remove the missing Democrats from membership in the Texas House. What do you say to that threat?
Well, first of all, I want to say, you know what? Today is a great day to end the corruption of Greg Abbott. This has gone on far too long. The public has been enraged about this, how politicians continue to tell the public pretty words, but never actually do what they say they would do. This is Governor Abbott being upset about that, because he's been caught doing exactly that. And to Governor Abbott, frankly, he doesn't know how to read Attorney General's opinions because he used to be Attorney General. And frankly, Democrats.
Did you hear what he just said? Greg Abbott doesn't know how to read Attorney General opinions because he used to be the Attorney General. No words.
I say, come and take it.
Come and take it. Do you think he could be successful taking your seats away?
No. It's all bluster, sound and fury signifying nothing.
All right, so it's all bluster, signifies nothing. Starchild here has a comment. They want Abbott or the DOJ to do something. I completely agree. I think, as I told you at the beginning of this show, that this is all about stirring people up. They want the spectacle. They want to see, or people to see them being dragged out and handcuffed and whatever. They want it. They wouldn't be on every show on CNN every hour if that's not what their objective was. The objective is, let's get as many people to see us get arrested. Remember when getting arrested used to be a stigma? Yeah, I don't want an arrest record, because if I get an arrest on my record, I might not get into college. I might not get a job. But yet these politicians are like, yeah, bring it. Arrest me. I don't care. We'll see. I'm fighting for the people. Truth to power. We went really, really, really far out of the way. Really far. And so how far out of the way? I'm going to play something here for you from a Texas politician. She uses a bad word here. But I think you need to hear this bad word to tell you how far we've gone in this country.
Supreme Court has paved the way for half the stuff that we see that's going on. Listen, Donald Trump is a piece of shit. Okay, we know that. Yes.
They're never coming back. People cheered.
He is. But in a functioning democracy, he still would not be able to get away with this. But he's been able to get away with this because the House Republicans are complicit. He's been able to get away with this because Senate Republicans are complicit. But most importantly, the courts, especially the Supreme Court, is complicit. And so I think one of the places that we have to start is we are absolutely, they are the highest court in the land, and they have no ethics guardrails. Now you go down to the lower courts and they do. How much sense does that make? When we know that they're taking money, we have the paper trail, and they refuse to put guardrails on themselves, so it's time for us to do it for them.
Well, in Texas...
There's no talking to these people. They're telling you what they think. He's a POS. They're telling you we got to do something about the Supreme Court because they're not doing what we want. If they're not doing what we want, then we need to get another court. The military is the only way. This is not going to stop. This is not a bottle of Raid that you can spray on these people. These roaches are impervious. They are super roaches. I don't know what we're going to have to do other than get the military to restore order quickly. And I'm glad we have President Trump as the person who's willing to do what needs to get done. One thing they should realize after what they saw in Iran and all this other stuff, don't push this guy. I know this is what you want. I know this is what you want to see happen. But guess what? We all knew this was coming. Well, I should say most of us. We all understood from years back the military was the only way. Many of us were telling people it's not going to stop until you make it stop. Not until you round all these people up and send them to Gitmo or to Alligator Alcatraz now. It's not going to stop. It is a tumor. Barack Obama birthed a tumor onto America. And this tumor is growing and growing and growing on college campuses. People fighting in airports, people fighting in McDonald's, people beating up white people in the street at festivals, ganging up on them, trying to kill them, stomp their face while they're on the ground. I'm not being hyperbolic. There is no way back. The frenzy has been set loose. The tumor needs to be excised. It needs to be taken out. We can't heal these people. And I think that's the hard thing for people to accept at this point, is they can't be healed. And so this is what's going to happen. You don't want to see these videos anymore with people stomping people's faces. You don't want to see them throwing stuff over the counter at McDonald's to somebody making $10 an hour. Dude, I'm making milkshakes. What the hell are you fighting me about? I don't want to see all that. I don't want to see Waffle House fights. This is crazy. It's gotten to the point where unless we're going to, you go into an expensive restaurant, you don't even want to go to some of these places. I walk in, if I see, let me sit over here, okay? Because I don't know what's going on over here. You go in a grocery store and you see the EBT. Oh, speaking of the EBT stuff, I'm going to get to that in a second too. You don't want to be around it. It is a tumorous fungus. And it's not going to stop. You know why it's not going to stop? Because they did such a good job of taking the nuclear family away from certain people. Unfortunately, we know who they are. And they continued telling you don't need no man, girl. You don't need no man in the house. You can go find all the fake hair and everything you need to do. You just don't know how to vote. Jeez.
It seems that the governor has absolutely clearly their legal arguments on his side. And so you're seeing this, and I don't suppose he would have gone into it without knowing that. And so and each state has different rules. Each state has a constitution. That's how it works in our system in America. And so for the Democrats to just petulantly walk out and say, well, we don't like the rules. We don't like the constitution. We don't like the way it works. Well, tough luck. I mean, you've got these are the people, by the way, who constantly lecture us, the Democrats, about the rule of law and our democracy and protecting our democracy, except when they don't like the outcome. Then they walk out.
We are at war.
You might want to remember that. Her words, not mine. We are at war. What do people do when they're at war? Yeah, they do bad things. None of you were involved in getting us to this situation, and it's not your responsibility to get us as a country out of it, but it is your responsibility to work with your family, the people you care about, to make sure they don't get stomped out in a Waffle House, that they're not having to subject kids to men in the bathroom and all that kind of craziness. And so one of the things that's happening right now, as I close here, they're going to be fighting about this. Trust me, they're going to be fighting about this. Breaking. RFK Jr. says he's officially moving to ban food stamps for being used for soda. The U.S. taxpayers should not be paying to feed the poorest kids in the country food that will give them diabetes. Oh my God. We are spending $400 million. Hold on. Hold on. Does that say $400 million a day on food stamps? $400 million a day on SNAP. 10% of that, or $40 million a day, is going to sugary drinks. If you add candies to that, it's about 13 to 17%. We all believe in free choice. We live in a democracy. People can make their own choice about what they're going to buy and what they're not going to buy. If you want to buy a sugary soda, you should be able to do it, but the U.S. taxpayer should not pay for it. Wow. Wow. Oh, here's the video.
Her changes to the SNAP program are emblematic of that commitment. SNAP, we're spending $405 million a day on SNAP. And about 10% is going to sugary drinks. And and if you add candies to that, it's about 13 to 17%. And we all believe in free choice. We live in a democracy. People can make their own choice about what they're going to buy and what they're not going to buy. If you want to buy a sugary soda, you ought to be able to do that. But the U.S. taxpayer should not pay for it. And the U.S. taxpayer should not be paying to feed kids foods, the poorest kids in our country, with foods that are going to give them diabetes. And then my agency ends up through Medicaid and Medicare paying for those injuries. So we're going to put an end to that, and we're doing it step by step, state by state.
We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning, and you'll say, please, please, it's too much winning. We can't take it anymore. Mr. President, it's too much. And I'll say, no, it isn't. We have to keep winning. We have to win more. We're going to win more.
If you think they were fighting, if you think they were at war, it's going to get really bad now. Oh, it's going to get crazy. Oh my God, they can't use it. I wonder when they're going to roll it out. I understand he did the speech just now, but it's another thing to actually see when they're going to roll it out. Because, these people are going to go crazy. You know they're going to go crazy. Oh man, let me talk to you guys real quick. Is this in here? Yeah. All right. So my buddies from Patriot Addict. Wow, I'm still thinking about having to, not being able to buy soda and candy. What I gotta? I'll stop. All right. So anyway, I want to talk to you about this offer from Patriot Addict. They're one of our sponsors here, and they're doing something simply amazing. Now, at first we had just the Trump red knife, which a lot of you guys liked, right there. And then they came by and they said, hey, Barry, we're doing another knife that we'd like you to show people. And they started asking me to show people the Trump 45-47 knife, which is this one. And this is the one that it's much sharper, same knife, basically. And it's got the Trump inscription on the blade. Very, very nice. So they said, hey, can you put that out too? I'm like, yeah, I can see if people like this, and people actually did love it. And then they said, okay, can you also show them the 45-47 hat? And so I said, yeah, I can do that. That's a 45-47 hat. And they're like, well, if people like that, can you show them also, please, show them the Trump flag? And I'm like, yeah, I can show people the Trump flag. Where is it here? Okay. And this is the Trump flag, which would look good on the back of your truck or out your front door. And I'm like, yeah, I can show them the Trump flag. Barry, can you also show them the Trump blankie? Yeah, people like the Trump blankie. Some people are putting the Trump blankie up on their wall instead of using it as a blanket. This is the big Trump blanket. And they said, well, what if we put together a bundle where people could get the blanket, the flag, both knives, and the hat, and we put it in a bundle? Would you be able to have time to go ahead and let people know about that? I'm like, yeah, I can let people know about that. But let's sweeten the deal. Let's go ahead and also give them the custom Trump plane. And you can barely see it. I should have had it next to me, but right there is the Trump Air Force One model. And I'm like, you're going to put all that? The Trump Air Force One is just like $250 by itself. You're going to put all of this together in one bundle? You get all of that? All you got to do is to go to the QR code right here, and you can get the entire bundle? I'm like, that's worth like $500 worth of stuff. That's a whole bunch of stuff. All of it? Yeah. Really? Yeah. How much are you going to charge them for all that? Like $99. What? Yes. Being a little emphatic here, but you get both knives, you get the hat, you get the flag, you get the blanket, and you get the Trump plane model. All of it just by going to the QR code here, and you'll get it for about $95 or so. $500 worth of stuff. And, if you don't want it all, go ahead and go in halvesies with somebody. You guys can split it. Look, you get both knives. One of you get the knife. One of you guys get the blanket. One person gets the flag. Or great deal. Great deal. Go ahead. It's only available for you guys, by the way. And so you have to go to the QR code right here. It expires very soon because I don't know how much, when I'm doing these, I don't know from time to time what they're going to have available and how long it's going to last. So make sure you take advantage of it as soon as possible. All right, let's see here. Let's go to the super chats if there are any. And by 7, I can probably do 7. There's plenty of time. By 7 o'clock, we should know everything there is to know about what Greg Abbott is actually going to do. Oh, wait a minute. Somebody just posted something. Hold on. Somebody posted this and says, just in, the Texas House of Representatives just voted in favor of issuing fines and arrest warrants to the Democrats that left the state. Yeah, buddy, I gotta like that. Throw their butts in jail. And you know what you should do? Once you get everybody back, create a new law. If you've been arrested or for taking off, you can no longer run for re-election. That would stop it. That would stop it right away. Oh, love it. Absolutely love it. I wonder how many of them would cry if handcuffed. Yeah, exactly. Oh, man. Who paid for the expensive plane that the Dems flew out of Texas? It cost $100,000 one way. Mm-hmm. The fines are only about $500 a day. True. But they're going to run those numbers up. And they're going to have somebody who's going to be paying off the fines, maybe like Pritzker. Is that bribery? We have to figure that out. Yeah. They are finished. I hope we do find that out, that these people are finished, because they're scumbags. I feel that way. I'll say it. They're scumbags for what they do. All right, last night Robin told me, hey, listen, when you were doing super chats, well, your face was covered up and nobody could see you. And I'm like, well, they're looking to see what the people say, not so much me, but let me see if I can fix that real quick so that I'm not covering up me. Oh, I see what's wrong here. Wait a second. All right, so, yeah, I'm kind of like not there. Why am I... Hold on, 1 second. I got to fix this so I can see my face as I read this. What did I do? 1 second. Hold on, I'll fix it. The crop. Okay, that one's fine. Is it crop 2? Oh, there it is. That's why people couldn't see me, because I didn't put the thing in the right place and all that kind of stuff. All right, let's do this now that I got it fixed and everybody can see my face as well. Bam. Mamma Mima. Years ago, EBT could not be used for soda or candy. You know what else about EBT that they got away from? Remember going to the grocery store, if you're old enough, where EBT, there was no ATM card. You actually had to bring out food stamps to pay for your stuff. And people were, embarrassed because they were on EBT or they were on SNAP or whatever it was called back then. And they did away with it so that the stigma of paying with food stamps wouldn't embarrass the people. Well, you know what? Bring that back. You see, I'm not one who's putting any stigma on somebody who needs food stamps to get back where they need to get to. But if we see the same person there using the food stamps, then you start looking and go, hey, maybe you might want to stop having babies. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. I started at the bottom. Sorry. All right, let me go here. Barry, for ladies who can't or don't want to use regular firearms, they can look into Byrna, non-lethal gun for their self-defense. Yeah, Ashley, you need to get a hold of Byrna to see if they want to get up on here on the show and do some sponsoring. But yeah, good alternative. Tim Cox, thank you. Born on the 4th. Barry, you remind me of modern day Paul Revere. The live nuts are coming. As always, kudos. Thank you very much. Barbara Radloff, thank you. Native, South Florida. April Delaney, 6th District, Maryland Dem. Her husband was 6th District Congressman and now works for CNN. Interesting on inside stocks. Yeah, if you guys are in a position you'd like to, do some stuff with Chris over at, his app, which is, the Tracker, Autopilot. Yeah, might be worth something looking into. Jennifer Seidel. Everyone should look up Cuba Today videos, not just Havana. That's what they want for us. They will take everything and leave you with nothing. I live in South Florida. I have sat down and broke bread with a lot of people who had to get out of Cuba. Kipper, MAGA will never, ever, ever let Dems back. Great. R2 squared. This will not work either. The news cycle doesn't last long enough for them anymore. This insurrection and treason. Michelle Stoffel. I think the Fleocrats, a great name, are desperately down bad and they're trying to raise money towards the $500 a day fees. And they'll get some rich person to do it. Mamma Mia, we talked about that. Michelle Stoffel, to clarify, they are broke and they're going to squeeze enough far lefties for all they can get. Yeah, but you know what? PBS still went under. They couldn't do it on their own. R2 Squad, great show, Barry. Hopefully that this chat gets through. It got through, bro. Gotcha. And the Blue Lotus, we call him the Trump of Monte Cristo, or how about Trump Zoo? I like both of those. The Trump of Monte Cristo, in case you guys haven't seen the movie or read the book, The Count of Monte Cristo. Very good movie, very good book. And, of course, Trump Zoo. Wait a minute, we got a late one here. Ella Ernest, most elderly are on food stamp because Social Security only pays $1,200 per month. I bet you this, I don't know about everybody else, but if I saw an elderly person using food stamps or an EBT, I ain't got no problem with it. You know who else I wouldn't have a problem with it? A veteran. I think if you go over there and you do whatever you need to do on behalf of our country, when you get back here, you shouldn't have to go to the VA. You should get this card that says, I gotta go grocery shopping. Bam. I need medical. Bam. I need a mortgage. Bam. You do a tour overseas. Yeah, I think we should be taking care of people. Maybe that's just me. Maybe that's me being because my dad was in the military and stuff. That's how I feel. All right, everybody. Wait a minute. Bumblebee says where'd that go? R2 squared. Yes, I see your chats, bro. Here in North Carolina, it's a Piggly Wiggly. What's the one in Robin? Ingalls. Ingalls is the one up in Western North Carolina. BJ Bumblebee says, I am low income on Social Security, elderly, and I don't use food stamps or the food bank that is subsidized by the federal government. You go. You know, but if you did, wouldn't even think twice about it. You get to an age where you're still kicking on this planet, we should be taking care of and helping our elderly. That's how I feel. All right. See you at about 7 tonight for the second show. Tonight I'm looking at a movie. Tonight, if I can get the rights to use Sum of All Fears, we're going to do Sum of All Fears. So I have an interview with Mary Rook from the Daily Caller, and then hopefully when we do the jump over, we can do Sum of All Fears. So I'll see you back here tonight at 7:30.